Good evening to everybody. Actually, we prepared a small presentation because I think the best way to show you what we're doing in Colombia is through some images. But before, I would like to give you a little bit the background. So Daniela will present you what we have done so far, and I will give you just a small introduction about the background. Yes, this is a very exciting project. We started first alone and now very happily and with great enthusiasm together with urbaMonde. It's a project about promoting peace building and housing cooperatives in Colombia. It just came about because we were engaged in a research project about the replicability of the Uruguayan cooperative model in other countries. And that's why when we learned about the exchange that there has been between FUCUAM and ECOMUN, which is the cooperative of former combatants of the FARC, we were very intrigued by this exchange. We really wanted to learn what are the opportunities and the challenges of replicating the cooperative model of Uruguay, in particular for a very special community like the former combatants. And so we got in touch with the commune, we got in touch with the community of ex-combatants, and we learned that besides, that they needed a lot of assistance, technical support to do this project from an institutional point of view, but also from a very architectural point of view. We are from the Department of Architecture. And that's how we decided, together with urbaMonde, to actually try to combine educational objectives with research objectives and capacity building and the implementation of a small project. We were very lucky, together with urbaMonde, to get some funding from ABZ, from the Solidarity Fund of ABZ, which is a housing cooperatives here in Zurich, and which allowed us, with our own funding from ETH, to do the educational part and the research part, and with the funding from ABZ and urbaMonde to actually implement the findings of our educational and research activities through a concrete project. So this is a bit the background of this project, a collaboration that has gone on now for over a year, and Daniela is now going to present you what we have done so far. And this is the first part. I think Leah might like to add after what will be the next steps in this project. We intend to continue collaborating with this community of ex-combatants in Colombia on a long-term basis in various ways, through research, through education, through activism and technical cooperation. And so this is actually the first phase we are going to present you. Having said that, I'm handing over the word to Daniela and to her presentation, which will also introduce you to the context with some beautiful images.
Hello, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen really quickly. Thank you for this invitation. As Jennifer said, we're very excited to share what has been a very productive last couple of months. Well, this project has started since almost 2 years, so that it's exciting to be able to show more concrete things that we have been doing in the last months. So just to give a quick background for those not familiar with the context in which this project takes place, or with the context of Colombia. In 2016, after the signing of the peace process, there was the demobilization of around 10,000 ex-combatants of the FARC, and many of them have chosen to reincorporate collectively. This has been part of that has been included in the peace agreements, and how that has taken place for the most part for those who wanting to reincorporate collectively was the establishment of 26 transitory settlements for capacity building and reincorporation. Although they were intended to last only 24 months, they have continued existing until today, so more than 5 years. of these ex-combatants living in this situation, in these conditions that were really meant to be only temporary. And today, around 3,000 ex-combatants live in these temporary camps. Obviously, housing is one of the most pressing needs right now for the successful reincorporation process and the success of the peace process in general in Colombia. So really, housing is at the center of the peace process. And as a response to this lack of really adequate housing solutions being offered or available to the ex-combatants, a group of 350 ex-combatants living in 2 of these temporary spaces decided to create a mutual aid housing cooperative inspired by the Uruguayan FUCUAM mutual aid model. And basically, their aims is to promote reconciliation with the surrounding community, for this project to be a project of capacity building and livelihood opportunities. What they intend to be is also a construction cooperative and to train themselves in construction, so that this can also be a way of having livelihood opportunities. And they intend for this housing cooperative project to be a pilot project for alternative forms of housing in Colombia, for decommodified forms of housing in Colombia, and ultimately to have an influence on national housing policy. So the aim of this community is really to go beyond just supplying houses for themselves or to solving their housing situation, and really becoming a pilot project in Colombia. So, as Jennifer mentioned, this is led us to the establishment of the School of Architecture for Reconciliation, which combines research and action. It's here we have the ETH with the Universidad Nacional, urbaMonde, and ABZ. And some of the goals of this School of Architecture for Reconciliation is really to promote peace building and reconciliation by bringing together different actors, from students to researchers, from victims of the armed conflict. We've had victims also participating in some of the sessions we've had, and the community of Ciudadanas de Paz, as long as other stakeholders, other NGOs, other people who are really working and involved in the peace process. So, and for the first time, really involving architecture, faculties, and students. You wanted to add something? Okay. And another goal is to train students in participatory settlement planning and sustainable building technologies, and ultimately to provide technical assistance to the cooperative Ciudadanas de Paz in the development of a sustainable human settlement. Just now we zoom in a bit to where we are working. This is in the ETCR Tierra Grata is in the north part of Colombia, close to Valledupar, around 30 kilometers from the city of Valledupar. We find the ETCR. This is more or less the temporary settlement where they are established now. And as you can see, so the buildings that you see are the temporary settlement, and this community has acquired a piece of land adjacent to the temporary camp where they are establishing their housing project. They have already built a couple of model houses and testing out some of these production cooperatives that we had mentioned. So the compact earth block, so they're building with compact earth blocks, with they have a carpentry, the metal welding, and some transportation machineries. And what we have identified together with the community during these 2 years that we've been working with them, and also through different visits, is that more or less the housing aspect of the project is somehow, they've really advanced in that, and they are already building the houses. But what we sort of where we arrived is that there was a lack of really reflecting on what was the need of collective spaces, and how those collective spaces and collective uses, so uses beyond housing, where should they be located? What type of collective spaces this community needs? And so, together with the community, we identified 6 projects. And the idea was that it was really identifying what existed today. This community has been living in this space for the last 5 years, and there are obviously all these needs that have been emerging, and a lot of initiatives that already exist and are already taking place in the temporary settlement, and need to be thought what needs to be improved today and how they will transition into the new housing project. So the idea was to from these 6 projects that we identified together with the community, to create an action plan that really thought about short, medium, and long-term actions that could be taken. So together with the students from the ETH and the Universidad Nacional, we traveled to Tierra Grata. Here we are in the first day where we arrived all together, and we presented ourselves to the community, where we would be staying for the next 10 days. We had several meetings, interviews. We traveled around the community, really got to know exactly, what were their needs, how they imagined these projects, where they could take place. And then we established a sort of architecture office for 10 days in Tierra Grata, where the students were brainstorming and really translating those ideas that the community had into sort of an action plan, and thinking already, obviously, in terms of what could be the spatial actions that could take place. Just to mention a little bit what these 6 projects entailed. So the first one was the productive units. As I mentioned, these are the construction productive units. Where should they be located while they are constructing the project, but then afterwards? So the students did a whole assessment of where was the best place. First of all, what size should these productive units be? Where should they take place? What was the best way, where they receive the materials? So really understanding the whole production cycle. The second project was the productive gardens. This is an initiative from the women's group of Tierra Grata. They are working in thinking really of what could be some agriculture, some small scale agricultural projects that could take place within the housing project. But through this exercise of the school, we really push the community to think beyond not just only the individual gardens of the houses, but to really think of a landscape master plan, and more importantly, how this master plan could connect into the whole environmental systems that surround this community. This community is embedded, is located in a very, very unique ecosystem. So really how that was going to be integrated. The third project has to do with the childcare center. It currently exists in a very precarious little building. So thinking what type of improvements could be done now, and what could be, how this could look like in the future. When is it a good time for the childcare center to move? As some of you know, in mutual aid housing cooperatives, the childcare center is really at the heart of the construction process, because it's where kids can stay and allows parents to really work on the houses. So this becomes sort of a main pillar in the construction of the housing project. The fourth one has to do with an initiative, an ongoing project that they have, which is an ecotourism project. So this project really was thinking of, how could they improve and expand this productive and this service that they are already offering as a tourism location. And the fifth one has to do with a collective of artists and communication experts that already are in the community, who are interested in, who have focused more on memory and culture of this particular community through media production. They have also so it really is a very interesting project, because it collects a bit they are documenting the whole reincorporation process of this community. So thinking about the past, but also thinking about the future. This group of of people. They also wanted to start the first rural cinema of El Perijá, of this region. So they have very ambitious projects, but that could be very interesting for this community to think about. And the sixth project is a school for a neighboring indigenous community who are live in very precarious conditions. And this community of ex-combatants thought that it was important, as arriving in this territory, to really understand what are the needs of the surrounding community and seeing how they could really channel also resources into helping the surrounding community. So this was a project that the students, together with the ex-combatants and the indigenous communities, worked on. And then at the end, we ended those 10 days presenting some of our initial ideas to the community, who has the task of choosing one of these projects for us to further develop. That right now we have the students from the Universidad Nacional currently developing one of these ideas. The community has chosen the first project of the productive units. So we are currently designing this project, and with the funds that we have from ABETSET, the idea is to invest it in this project. So this is in summary what we did during the School of Architecture for Reconciliation, and we can open up a bit to what are the next plans. Maybe Jennifer, you want to mention a bit, some thoughts we have here.
Well, thank you, Daniela. I think your presentation was very comprehensive. As you said, now we are at the point where the community has chosen a project. They have decided that they want to they want us to further work on the productive units. And I think this clearly shows, how important for them is to move on with the housing project. We also think that other projects are equally relevant, and that's why we hope that together with urbaMonde, we can maybe submit another project proposal to ABETSET. I had recently a talk to the president of ABETSET, who was very enthusiastic about this project and really encouraged us to submit another project, a follow-up project. We think that the productive gardens, as they are called, but it's actually more than that, as Daniela said, it's really a master plan for the whole environmental planning of this settlement, would be an ideal project. But yes, I think this project, all these 6 projects are very valuable. I think they all need and deserve to be supported. And I think now our task and our commitment is to see how we can support this community in a very comprehensive development of their settlement and their housing project, and maybe to act a little bit as intermediaries between potential funding agencies for these projects and them.
So let's talk about the Favelas CLT project. As Nina said, we are starting the project with urbaMonde and FGC, but actually the project have started in 2018 here in Brazil. So we have a kind of a history to tell you, and then point some next agenda for us here. Okay, so just quickly contextualization. So today in Rio, there are approximately 1,200 favelas. There is a type of informal settlement. So just the favelas house nowadays 24% of the city's population. If we consider all the types of informal settlements, it passes the 30% of the city's population. So it is a large part of the city where most of the residents live in these communities, in these informal settlements for over than 50 years old. So there are generations of residents in these territories, and they face a lot of challenges and a lot of possibilities too, and we are going to talk a little bit about it. First, some images for you. This is a big favela in the north of the city here in Rio de Janeiro. This is a favela in the central zone of the city. This one also in the north zone, but in a very valued neighborhood here. This one also is the same neighborhood. This one is Rocinha. There is a very well-known favela in the south of the city, next to the beach, in a very, very valorized area. This one is Vidigal, also a very large and a very large favela in a very valorized neighborhood of the city, near to the beach also. Well, and then considering all these images that I've just showed to you, what actually defines Rio's favela? What can we say about these territories? Well, they are neighborhoods that develop out in an unmet need for affordable housing. So they are the place of the poorest in the city where they can build in their house and live. The favelas don't respect any outside regulation, so we don't have the public regulation of the constructions and all the stuff. They are completely established by residents, not just the houses, but also the public service. They are arranged by the residents. And they are territories that evolve based on culture and access to resource, jobs, and self-built knowledge. So favelas are very complex territories, but also very potent territories too. So we talk favelas and we do not use another terms. We do not use slums, we do not use squatters, because all these terms, squatters, shanties, shacks, and slums, they bring the idea of a precarity. They bring the idea of a lack of a lot of public engagement, a lot of public service, and the precarity of the constructions. But actually, the favelas in Rio de Janeiro, they evolved. They are more than this type of territory. So we have more than 1 century of history of the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. And right now, they are territories with a lot of possibilities despite the challenge. So in the favelas, we can find innovative solutions, we can find strong social bonds, we can find solidarity between the residents and with other people that came. And we have a lot of self-governance skills that were acquired by the residents over the decades. But of course, they face a lot of challenge. They face challenges related to the infrastructure in the territory. They face challenges related to the public service, related with the relation with the public sector. There is always a very a fine line condition that they have to deal, but they face a major challenge with the land tenure. And we are focused now in this challenge to start to talk about our project. So here are some pictures to show you the land tenure situation in the favelas in Rio de Janeiro. So on the left, we can see some places, and here you can see this is the place where we had one favela, Vila Autódromo. All these pictures are from Vila Autódromo. Here in the beginning, with the self-construction, with the territory occupied by the poorest people, it was a favela with more than 200 families. Here, the situation of the eviction of this favela during the Olympic period for the preparation of the city for the Olympic Games. So here you can see all the violence involved in this eviction project. And here you can see the situation right now. So just 20 families could resist to this project. And now the area of the favela is occupied by some builds for the richest people in the city, some hotels and all this stuff. But, well, what this picture show us? It show us that the favelas and informal settlements in Brazil, the residents of these territories are constantly threatened by the state and by the market, and they don't have the security of their land tenure. And this is a very problematic scenario here, not just in Rio, but all around the Brazil. So we can say that we have two main agents that act to increase the land tenure insecurity here in Rio and in Brazil. So we have the state and the market agents. Here, very quickly, some maps showing us how the state acts during the Olympic Games to remove people from their territories to another part of the city. So just for you to understand, here is the most valorized area in Rio de Janeiro. Here in these circles, there are the Olympic clusters where the equipment for the Olympic Games were built. Here, these green points were favelas in this area, most valorized with the Olympic clusters. And here in pink, we can see the lines showing the direction of the evictions. So the state removed people from here and put them here in the west zone of the city. That is the poorest zone with a lack of transportation, a lack of public health infrastructure. And this is the movement made by the state in Rio in the last decade. But next to the state, we have the market agents, and we have the real estate market that act made in some harassment of the residents to sell their houses. Here you can see the Guardian material talking about a buying guide in Rio and citing the Vidigal favela with an amount of money you can buy several 3-bedroom concrete houses in Vidigal. So for the public from outside the Brazil to buy houses in the favela. So we have these kinds of threats by the harassment of the real estate market, but we have also the public service concessionaires that could increase the living costs in the favela and threaten their land tenure too. So, well, people here in Rio and all around Brazil think about the land regularization, the formalization of the ownership as a way to fight against this process of evictions, of displacements. But actually, land regularization is not necessarily a solution. Here we have a quote from Maria da Penha. Maria da Penha is this woman with blood in her face. She is the leadership of Vila Autódromo, and Maria da Penha says to us that titles don't guarantee we can stay on our land, because I had 2 concessions of use from the state, and to be able to stay, I practically died. So land regularization could be even a threat for the residents, because many people believe that the title will protect them, but actually the title could increase the harassment of the real estate market, and the title could increase also the living costs, considering the formalization of the public service too. So in this scenario, we need a model that could work with the land regularization, work with the formalization of the ownership in these territories, but guaranteeing that the communities could stay and could develop their territories without any threats, or with the less threat it is possible. So the Community Land Trust here in Brazil, it could address the residents' #1 concern, there is permanence. If we ask the residents why they want the title, why they want to formalize their ownership, they will tell us that they want to stay, they want to be secure in their territory. Community Land Trust could also maintain the common assets developed through informality, while they could address also some informalities challenges. Community Land Trust can maintain what has become Brazil's de facto affordable housing stock that are in favelas and in other informal settlements. Community Land Trust could preserve or encodes common assets, and it not only allows but encourage favelas to continue self-organizing and be in the forefront from the community development. But all of this with the backing and collective oversight provided by the Community Land Trust. So it is a really interesting option for us here in Brazil. Well, but the Community Land Trust model was completely unknown in Brazil since 2018. No one knows what it is, what it could be done. And so we start our project with some studies about the availability of the Community Land Trust in Brazil, considering our laws, considering our social and political situation. During all the time, we were working with the core components of a community land trust that are the same anywhere around the world. So we work with the voluntary membership, the collectively owned land, the individually owned homes, the community control, and the permanent affordability. So we work with these 5 core components, and with the endless possibilities in the details and garnish to help us to address the needs in a continental country as Brazil. So the cities in Brazil are very different, and you have to think in a solution that could address the needs in all of the country. So we start our project in 2018 with a workshop with the folks of the Caño Martimpeña in Puerto Rico. That is a community land trust established in a favela, the first one in Latin America. So here are some pictures of our meetings. We invite the residents to think about their territories, about the strong points, about the threats, about the legal institutes and how they could address the concerns. Here, some of our activities in the communities. All the time we work with the residents in their territories. And after this first approximation with the model, we fixed some preferential conditions for a favela CLT here in Rio. So we wish to talk with a consolidated community with a strong sense of belonging, a community with a large percentage of families do not yet possessing land titles, but that yet have a reasonable likelihood of acquiring title. We wish to work with residents that could perceive or have experienced already threats of involuntary displacement, eviction, or gentrification. And we want to work with communities with a matrix process of community organizing. So considering this, 2 communities start to talk with us that fulfill this preferential conditions, and that has the interest to talk with us about the community land trust project. So the first one was Trapicheiros. There is a small favela with 52 families. It's a 80-year-old community, a very old community in a very valorized neighborhood in the city. They are threatened by eviction since 2015. And we are now starting the community planning process because we have some phase of the implementation of community land trust in the favelas. So the first one is the mobilization process. Then we start the process to land regularization. At the same time, we work with the residents about community planning process and also the construction of the legal entity that will manage the community land trust. And then we formalize the arrangement with all the community land trust structures. So here are some pictures. We have some materials about our pilot communities. In the Rio Watch, there is the catalytic communities communication project, so you can find on the internet. Here's some pictures of our activities, people reflecting around their territories, some more pictures. Here is a community planning activity with the children, with the people. Well, and then we have our second pilot community. There is Conjunto Esperança. Conjunto Esperança is an informal settlement, not a favela, another type of informal settlement with 72 families, more than 15 years of self-built public housing. Conjunto Esperança is in Jacarepaguá region, which is also a very valorized neighborhood in Rio. They are awaiting titles, and now we are working with them to create a legal entity to manage the community land trust. So here we have some pictures. We have also some materials in the Rio Watch, but you can see that in Conjunto Esperança, we have some constructions. It was a self-built construction, but with a project, with all the stuff, we don't have the precarity there. So here, some pictures of our activities. Well, so we started with these two pilot communities. Now, with the urbaMonde and FGC support, we could start the work in one more community. There is exactly Vila Autódromo. Let me just show you. We start to work in this community, which is a very inspiring and a very important community in the context of the struggles for housing in Rio. And we are now intending to start to work in two other communities by the next year. So the support of urbaMonde and FGC that starts these years is being fundamental for us to expand the work. Well, just to you to know that we also face some challenge in the process of the Favela CLT project. So here, 4 of our primary challenges. The first one is the pre-existing cultural and political bias in favor of individual titles. We have also the challenge of the organized crime. So we have militias or drug traffickers that intend on being primary power holder in several communities in Rio. We have the distrust of land titling in general due to the concern of the residents that associate regulations to the higher costs of living. And we have a challenge of achieving unity and establishing and maintain a community institution indefinitely. But actually, this one is a challenge, a global challenge for the community land trust. Well, but despite the challenge, we start with the pandemic, the diffusion of the model throughout Brazil. So we leave Rio de Janeiro and start to talk about community land trust with groups in other cities throughout the country. So we held the first Community Land Trust National Seminar in 2021 with more than 600 subscribers from all states of the country. And this is huge considering the size of Brazil. This year, on April, we held the second CLT National Seminar with more than 420 registered, once again from all states of the country. Now we have groups from several cities in Brazil that already have expressed interest in implementing the community land trust in their territories. And we have a presence of the project just this year in 2022 in 12 academic events and 4 national social movement events. So it is a very important movement for us to spread the word about the community land trust in Brazil. And just to finish the presentation, we have some recognitions. One, we have the insertion of the community land trust as an urban policy instrument in a master plan already approved in the metropolitan region of Rio de Janeiro, in a city called São João de Meriti. We have also the insertion of the community land trust as an urban policy instrument in 2 master plan bills, Rio de Janeiro, the capital, and Maricá, there is another city in the metropolitan region of Rio de Janeiro. We have the recognition of the community land trust by the Rio de Janeiro Planning Secretary as a promising instrument for affordable housing in the city. We had the participation in national seminars promoted by social movements that are historically involved with the struggle for housing in Brazil. And we have a growing recognition by technicians and academics across the country. So the project is in a rapid growth curve. And thanks to the support of urbaMonde and FGC, we are better prepared with a bigger team to continue working and meeting the demands of a greater knowledge about the community land trust model in Brazil and the demands referred to the development of the project in the pilot communities. Thank you very much. Here is our website with more information for you that want to know more. And that's it. I'm here for some answers and to continue to talk about it. Thank you.